Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We apologize for the few minutes delay. We were having some technical difficulties with the PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go ahead and share it in this format, and I will be sending the slide deck as well as a link to the recording out afterwards so that you can see it individually as well. Closed captioning is available. You can disable it if you would like to. We encourage you to put information, questions, feedback in the chat. I'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation. And let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. We're going to today hear from Holly Hendricks, who is going to provide us an overview of Kentucky Vocational Rehabilitation. And Holly, thank you for joining us. She's the Field Service Director at OVR. Today, our information in this presentation and accompanying materials is intended for informational purposes and does not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the University of Kentucky, HDI, or its individual employees. We make every attempt to provide accessible, accurate, and current information. So, our next Implement Seminar series in March is going to be Assistive Technology Support in the Workplace, and it will be led by HDI's Christina Espinosa, our Division Director, and Michelle Lauer, our Senior Job Analyst. So that's on March 27th, and I will put the information in the chat as well so that you have that and you can register. Go ahead and look at our objectives. So today, Holly is going to lead us in reviewing vocational rehabilitation and talking about OVR services, as well as discussing the OVR divisions. And as I mentioned, we are very fortunate to have Holly with us today. She is the Director of Field Services at the Kentucky Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. Holly holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and English from Campbellsville University and a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from the University of Kentucky. Holly is also a certified rehabilitation counselor. So we're happy to have her today to share her expertise. But before I turn it over to her, I just want to provide you with some information about Retain Kentucky, because it is led by the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation under the Kentucky Office of Employment and Training. And Retain Kentucky works with employees, employers, and healthcare providers to address issues to help them successfully stay at work and return to work. It is a Department of Labor research study, and we're looking at how early intensive vocational services impacts somebody's recovery and their likelihood of remaining employed or returning to work following non-work related illnesses or injuries. Our services are free, and we are looking at ongoing research because research shows individuals with non-work related illnesses and injuries are at high risk of becoming unemployed. So with that, Holly, thank you so much. I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I'm glad to be here today. Thank you all for joining us. I'm always happy to talk about OVR. We're grateful to have the partnership with Retain, and I think it's going really well. Super excited about this partnership. So I'll tell you a little bit about Voc Rehab. We can move on to the next slide. In general, what is Voc Rehab, vocational rehabilitation? It's a program that helps people with disabilities to prepare for, enter, engage in, or advance in what we call competitive integrated employment. So OVR does not support sub-minimum wage employment. That doesn't mean individuals can't do that on their own, but VR does not support those goals. The program also helps businesses and employers to recruit, retain, and accommodate employees with disabilities. And our customers include almost everybody of working age, so adults, youth, students, businesses, etc. So just to give you an idea of the size of our program, these are some metrics from 2021. We served a little over 38,000 individuals that year. We had 2,880 successful employments. We call them competitive integrated employment outcomes. Their average wage was $18.45, and the average hours worked per week was 34. We hover around 375 to 400 full-time, what we call 18A or merit employees, and around 60 to 65 additional contract employees who provide services across the state, and we have 40 offices statewide. In general, in terms of our demographics, we serve 49% of the individuals that we serve identify as male, and 50.8% identify as female. And in terms of race, 88% white, 10% black, and 2% all other. In terms of disability type in 2021, 20% of the individuals that we served had a sensory disability, almost 20% had physical, 24% were identified as cognitive disabilities, 32% identified as having psychological or mental disabilities. And I will give this caveat here that a lot of individuals have co-occurring disabilities. So these only represent what we identify as the primary disability. A lot of folks have secondary or additional disabilities, but for reporting purposes, these are the primary disability types. So our purpose is to empower Kentuckians with disabilities to maximize independence and economic security through competitive integrated employment. I also want to say if anyone has questions, feel free to put those into the chat or the Q&A. Be more than happy to answer those as we go or towards the end of the presentation. In terms of the agency structure, we do have 4 divisions. The one that I'm responsible for is the Division of Field Services. We also have the Carl D. Perkins Vocational Training Center, which is located in Eastern Kentucky in Thelma. And then in Louisville, we have the Division of Blind Services housed in the McDowell Center, which is also a residential facility that works with our consumers who are blind or visually impaired. And then we also have the Division of Business Enterprise, and we'll go into more details about those divisions later on. So we'll start with the Division of Field Services. VR is an eligibility program. We are not an entitlement program. So individuals, when they apply, have to meet certain eligibility criteria, which we'll review in a minute. It's important to know that income is not a factor in eligibility, but it can be considered as part of the cost of certain services. VR is a very complicated program on a federal level, so there's a lot of caveats, but it's important that folks realize it doesn't matter if an individual has lots of funds available or none. Eligibility just doesn't matter. Once a person has completed the application for VR, this says we have 60 days to determine eligibility. We do not take that approach. We try to determine eligibility as quickly as possible. But individuals, if we have trouble getting the information we need to determine eligibility, we can do an extension with that individual's agreement and extend that time beyond 60 days. But by law, we need to try to make that determination in no more than 60 days. We do not provide emergency services. We are employment-based, so we just don't do emergency services. They're not intended to be long-term per se, but if individuals need supports on a long-term basis, then we work to identify alternatives and provide referrals and potential resources. Our supported employment program is managed with our community rehabilitation providers, is a way that we provide long-term support, but even that is very individualized based on what the individual needs. In terms of the process, at a glance, from the individual's perspective, the first thing that happens is they contact us or we receive a referral. If someone makes an initial contact, an individual can refer themselves or someone else can refer them. it doesn't matter, but basically just call a local office or call central office. Then the individual is assigned a counselor, and they set up a time to complete an application. Once the application is done, then counselors collect information about the individual's disability and the functional limitations that they experience because of those disabilities, and determine whether or not that person meets our eligibility criteria. Once that happens, the next step is to develop what we call an individualized plan for employment. And on that plan, we document the job goal that the individual has and the services that they need to get there, so that the individual and the counselor are on the same page and we know what the plan is moving forward. And once that's done, we start providing employment-focused services. Prior to plan development, we can only purchase assessment services. Then once the plan is developed and implemented, the goal, of course, is employment. Once an individual has been employed successfully for 90 days, the services on their plan have been provided, then in most cases, we can consider that a successful closure. There are certain cases that may go longer than that before we close the case, but we try to individualize it just to make sure the individual has the supports that they need prior to their VR case being closed. Our eligibility criteria include that the individual must have a disability, physical, mental, sensory, etc. It has to result in a significant barrier or impediment to employment. They must require VR services in order to prepare for, enter, engage in, advance in competitive integrated employment. And the individual has to be eligible, of course, before they get an employment outcome. In terms of services, we provide a lot of services, and this is not a complete list, so I would encourage all of you to go to our website if you're interested in getting more information about all of the different services offered. But on a high level, primarily what we do is provide vocational guidance and counseling. Our counselors are here to make sure that individuals consider all of their options, that they look at their interests, and they have informed choices in terms of the vocational goal that they pursue. And that's why our counselors have training both in disability and in employment, and they try to work with the individual to make sure that the job they're pursuing is one that is available where this person wants to live. We focus on a lot of targeted sectors in terms of what the economy is in their area and what jobs are available, and try to make sure the individual understands what to expect if they're seeking a new job or different job or their first job. So vocational guidance and counseling really is the core of what we do. Of course, we work with our job placement staff as well as outside providers to provide job placement assistance and job readiness training. We can assist with college or vocational training. Supported employment is a wonderful program or services that we can support for individuals who need additional support, long-term support, individualized support. Like I said earlier, we work very closely with our community rehabilitation programs to make sure that the individuals with the most significant disabilities have the support that they need to maintain employment. We assist with skill training or on-the-job training, job coaching, tutoring. We can assist with transportation. In some situations, the individual needs to be pursuing training or employment specifically, so it's not something that we do all day, every day, but for certain purposes, we can assist with transportation. Of course, interpreter or translator services. Individuals who speak any other language should be able to access our services. So we have vendors that can help us translate our forms and provide interpreters in all languages. We do have ASL, American Sign Language interpreters, on staff and on contract to make sure that our services are accessible as well. We provide wonderful assistive rehabilitation technology services. We have a great branch of employees that do that. Again, services are available statewide, and that includes anything from computer equipment, workstation, all the way to vehicle modifications and home modifications for those individuals who need those in order to work. And also referral services. Something that Voc Rehab does is we try to be very mindful of all the other programs that are available to individuals for them to access. So we try to make sure all of their needs are met. So we often refer to other programs as well. In terms of the cost for services, there's no cost to apply for services. And again, it's not tied to eligibility. Depending on someone's financial resources, they may be asked to contribute, but right now OVR is financially healthy, so we're not asking individuals to contribute, but they always can, and we welcome that if they want to. For an individual under 18 still claimed on the parent's income, we do require information from the parents. So yes, of course, if individuals are under the age of 18 or they have guardians, those individuals have to be involved in the case. So our goal is competitive, integrated employment. That's what we all want. We want the individual to be successful. We want success for the overall program. And again, that integrated means that the individual is in an environment working with people with and without disabilities, not in environments only with individuals with disabilities who are employed there, and that their wages are considered competitive within that specific vocational field. We have one of the other divisions, like we spoke earlier, is the Carl Perkins Center, located in Thelma. I'll give you just a really brief overview of what they do there. The mission there is that persons will achieve sustainable, competitive, integrated employment, maximize their independence, and yet gain self-respect through the provision of comprehensive services. So at the Carl Perkins Center, go ahead, next slide, please. They serve individuals with many different types of disabilities, learning disabilities, autism, traumatic brain injury, every disability type is served at Perkins. And the wonderful thing about it is that people can attend post-secondary education while they're there. They can receive driver's training. They can do vocational training and receive vocational credentials. And if they're an eligible consumer of OVR, it's at no cost. So if any of you are not familiar with it, I would really encourage you to go to the website. You can set up tours. They can pick up students who are interested and drive them to the center for just a visit. So it's a very accessible program and very successful. We're very proud of the Perkins Center. And you can find the website if you want more information. We do provide pre-ETS services, which we haven't talked about today, but there's more information on our website about that. So we'll move on to blind services. Sorry, I'm trying to be mindful of the time. I think we have about 7 minutes left. With our division of blind services, the mission is to provide opportunities for employment as well as independence to individuals with visual impairments. We serve Kentuckians who are visually impaired or blind and assist individuals in obtaining and maintaining employment, economic self-sufficiency, and independence. And of course, the goal is to provide a variety of services that are high quality and geared to enhance the lives of Kentuckians with disabilities. In the past, OVR was an entity and the Office for the Blind was an entity. So back in 2018, we combined, but we maintained the Division of Blind Services to address the unique needs of individuals with visual impairments. The programs within that division provide individuals with visual disabilities the tools they need to become more independent in their homes, schools, workplaces, communities. So at the McDowell Center, we offer training in low vision and blindness skills. There's not vocational training at McDowell like there is at our Perkins Center. It really is geared towards increasing the independence of individuals who are blind or visually impaired so that they can navigate their environments. Independent living and older blind program is also administered through our Blind Services Division. Orientation and mobility services are provided there. We also have deaf-blind program, which provides intensive support to individuals who are deaf-blind. And we're very proud of the Bioptic driving program as well, which a lot of individuals take advantage of, and that's a wonderful program. Specifically at the McDowell Center, staff are committed to assisting individuals achieve their educational, vocational, and independent living goals. And training opportunities at the center are designed to promote their independence. So, Blind Services, again, is a division of VR, and we serve every county in the Commonwealth. We do have 10 offices where we have specifically Blind Services staff located. But again, services are available statewide, not just in these areas. And if you'd like more information about the services that we provide through this division, the link is there in the PowerPoint. The other division that we have is Kentucky Business Enterprise. This is one of the nation's leading vending and food service programs that are operated by people who are visually impaired or blind. And this program trains and places individuals as self-employed operators of snack bars, dining facilities, and automated vending facilities in public and private buildings across the state. So individuals specifically who are blind or visually impaired, this is a wonderful program for them if they are interested in self-employment, and KBE provides a lot of training and support to ensure that those businesses are successful. And again, that can be anywhere across the Commonwealth. So in terms of additional resources, I just wanted to make sure you have our location. This is where I am here in Frankfort in central office. And you see our website there, which has a ton of information on it. So I'd encourage you to visit that. You're also welcome to call, give that number out. I know a lot of people have questions about Voc Rehab, and sometimes the best thing to do is just pick up the phone, give me a call. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about the program. I think we have one more slide. Right. We do have a wonderful overview of OVR. So the YouTube link there gives you a great video. Some folks receive information better through a video, so we try to make the information about the agency accessible in a wide variety of ways. We have specific videos on disability employment that are a wonderful resource. And then 2019 state report for current level data prevalence for Kentucky. That sounds a little technical for me, but anyway, might be great for some folks if you want to do that. So I know we don't have much time, Kimberly, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Thank you so much, Holly. I don't see anything right now in the Q&A or the chat, but that was a great overview. And I think we often think of it from a consumer perspective, but employers should be aware of services that they can have for their employees as well, right? So I always like to mention that as well. And then as far as we get questions a lot about Retain's relationship with OVR, and really we were fortunate enough to be asked to partner with OVR because you all are the grant holder of Retain and have allowed us to implement it. So we work collaboratively and can sometimes get things rolling for the OVR counselor. And we recently have been able to provide incentives of $100 for participants who enroll or go through the intake and enroll in Retain. And so sometimes that may help with items as a comparable benefit to the counselor if they're looking for, interview clothing or something for clothes or steel-toed shoes or something like that. That $100 could go towards that. So since that's so new, I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's a really wonderful way for individuals who are looking for employment to get a very quick service from Retain. Voc Rehab takes a little bit of time. So we're excited to be able to offer that to people, and we have incorporated those Retain questions into our referral. So everyone who calls into the agency looking for services, we assess whether or not they might qualify for Retain.
Absolutely. We've made it a seamless process. So we're so appreciative of being able to be part of that partnership with OVR and you sharing this information today. And we will send the slide deck as well as the recording once it's completed out to everybody. So if you have any questions, like Holly said, feel free to reach out to OVR, and they're always willing to answer those.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for having me. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.